We call one-hit wonders accidents, but from government mandates to hidden racial identities, they were actually calculated industry traps. Here are 6 artists who cracked the code, then got locked out. This is the ultimate industry deception, and perhaps the greatest marketing lie in R&B history. In the late 70s, a young singer named Bobby Caldwell was signed to TK Records. TK was a legendary label out of Miami, famous for launching KC and the Sunshine Band. Caldwell had spent months recording his debut album, and I can't let go, pouring his soul into the tracks. But when he played the finished record for the label executives, they hated it. They looked him in the eye and coldly said, "We don't hear a hit." Knowing his career was about to be shelved, Caldwell panicked. He locked himself away and wrote the buttery, horn-driven masterpiece, What You Won't Do for Love, in just 2 days. It was a desperate, last-minute addition to save his contract. But here is the racial pattern that nobody in the industry likes to talk about. TK Records was predominantly a black R&B label. They knew the sound of this new song was undeniably black. But Bobby Caldwell, the man singing it, was a white guy with blonde hair. So the record label made a calculated decision to hide his identity. When they printed the album cover, they didn't show his face. They used a heavily shadowed silhouette of a man sitting on a park bench against a sunset. No face, no race. Just an incredibly cool vibe. The deceptive strategy worked flawlessly. Black radio stations across America picked up the record. Assuming Bobby Caldwell was a talented new soul singer from their own community, it rocketed up the R&B charts. By the time the label finally allowed Caldwell to perform live and the public realized he was white, it didn't matter. The song was already an undeniable, cemented classic. But the lie had a permanent cost. Because he was pigeonholed by this marketing trick, Caldwell never had another massive pop crossover hit in the United States. The mystery was gone, and the mainstream audience moved on. He didn't disappear entirely, though. He became an absolute legend in the hip-hop sampling community, worshipped by artists like Tupac. He became a massive superstar in Japan and made a fortune writing hit songs for Peter Cetera and Amy Grant. But his personal career as a front-facing American pop star was sacrificed for the sake of selling that one specific song. The music industry is a transaction. The label got their multi-million-dollar hit. The world got an absolute classic that still plays today. And Bobby Caldwell? Bobby Caldwell got a silhouette. 2 struggling musicians, 2 incredibly painful breakups, one last desperate pitch to make it into business. Peter Beckett and J.C. Crowley didn't just write a catchy, sad song. They meticulously crafted a track and pitched it directly to RSO Records. Why does that specific label matter? Because RSO was the unstoppable corporate machine behind the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack. They literally owned the global airwaves in 1977. Baby Come Back wasn't just a hit. It was a carefully engineered cultural juggernaut. It was designed to fit perfectly into the smooth, yacht rock, Bee Gees era that RSO was actively monopolizing. It was so perfectly crafted for 1977 that it spent 3 weeks at #1. But the success of that single song was a curse. It completely overshadowed every other piece of music the band ever wrote. Many people don't realize they actually had a second top 10 hit called This Time I'm In It For Love, but literally nobody remembers it. The pressure of following up a generational anthem broke them. Severe internal tension, massive ego clashes, and constant lineup changes stalled their creative engine before it could really get going. Player is the perfect example of the industry's double-edged sword. They caught the biggest, most profitable wave in music history. They rode it brilliantly to the shore. And then, almost instantly, the tide went out forever. The most explosive soul track of 1965 began as a complete studio mistake. Roy Head was in the recording booth trying to lay down a cover of Ooh Poo Pa Doo, but his guitarist played the wrong riff entirely. Rather than stopping the sex, 1.5. Rather than stopping the tape, Head started improvising wild lyrics about a cow, which he eventually changed to be about treating a woman right. But the dark industry secret here isn't the chaotic songwriting. It's the sheer, unfiltered hustle required to cross the racial divide in the 1960s. In 1965, a white artist from Texas didn't just casually walk onto the R&B charts. The industry was strictly segregated. Head defied the advice of his own record label. He snuck into a major convention for black disc jockeys completely uninvited. He walked onto the stage, grabbed the microphone, and hit them with acrobatic dance moves that rivaled the godfather of soul, James Brown himself. He was doing backflips, splits, and biting the microphone stand. He completely won them over with pure talent. Treat Her Right became a massive crossover hit, battling the Beatles for absolute dominance on the pop charts. But timing is everything in the music business, and Roy Head's timing was tragic. The British invasion had just arrived, rapidly changing the global musical landscape. The gritty, brass-heavy sound of blue-eyed soul was being aggressively pushed out by the clean pop polish of English boy bands. Head survived by finding a home in country music later in his career. But for one singular, lightning-in-a-bottle moment, a wrong note and the right dance move bridged the American racial divide. A Canadian police officer wrote a poem about his girlfriend. It sounds like the start of a movie, but it is the true origin of one of the 70s most beautiful ballads. She's faced the hardest times you could imagine. He handed the poem to a local Vancouver band called Skylark, a band that happened to include a young, unknown keyboardist named David Foster. Wildflower is an emotional, sweeping, and seemingly random hit. But its massive success in the United States was actually the direct result of a foreign government mandate. In 1971, the Canadian government instituted CanCon laws. These laws legally forced Canadian radio stations to dedicate a massive percentage of their airtime strictly to Canadian artists. Rosalie Tremblay, a legendary music director at CKLW Radio in Windsor, Ontario, had a problem. CKLW broadcasted directly across the border into Detroit, Michigan. She needed Canadian songs that Detroit audiences would actually want to hear. She discovered Wildflower and played it on repeat, not just because she loved it, but to legally satisfy the Canadian broadcast laws. The government forced the initial airplay, but the sheer emotion of the track did the rest, spreading like wildfire across the American Midwest. But Skylark was never meant to last. The band couldn't find a follow-up single that matched that very specific melancholic frequency. They disbanded shortly after the hit faded. Sometimes a hit song destroys a band because they absolutely hate it. In the early 70s, Stories was a dedicated art rock group. They idolized the Beatles, they wrote complex melodies, and they wanted to be taken seriously by the critics. But their label, Kama Sutra Records, didn't care about art. They needed a commercially viable pop single to save the album. The label forced the band to cover a song by the British group Hot Chocolate. The song was about an interracial relationship, which was a highly taboo subject for mainstream US radio in 1973. The original UK version even had spoken word sections featuring racial slurs. Stories was forced to sanitize it, rock it up, and make it palatable for white American audiences. And to make matters worse, lead singer Ian Lloyd pushed his vocal cords so hard that his voice became incredibly raspy. Half of America bought the record because they genuinely thought it was a new Rod Stewart song. The manufactured cover went straight to #1 on the Billboard charts, but the band violently resented that their biggest moment in history was a novelty cover song that didn't represent their true artistic sound. The creative conflict became toxic. They hated playing it live, they fought with the label, and it tore them apart from the inside. Within just 1 year of hitting the very top of the charts, the band dissolved completely. Commercial success didn't save them. It broke them in half. The year was 1971, and the music industry was discovering the power of the assembly line. Elvis Presley had just turned this exact song down. The Grassroots, a massive rock band at the time, also said no. So the record label songwriters took a fully baked track, drums, horns, arrangement, all completely finished, and realized they just needed a voice to sing it. Enter Hamilton, Joe Frank, and Reynolds. They weren't a band born in a garage, dreaming of changing the world. They were seasoned pros, former members of an instrumental group called the T-Bones, hired specifically to execute a corporate product. And the product they delivered was absolutely perfect. Don't Pull Your Love hit the charts with the ruthless precision of a machine, peaking at #4 on the Billboard Hot 100. It sold over 1 million copies almost overnight. But here is the brutal trap of the music industry. When you are handed a massive hit that doesn't actually sound like you can never replicate it. The audience didn't fall in love with Hamilton, Joe Frank, or Reynolds. They fell in love with a track built by anonymous studio executives. They managed to score one more hit years later. So when you're feeling down low, but with a name that sounded like a mid-level accounting firm and absolutely no distinct visual image, they faded away. They became the ultimate industry two-hit wonder. Great execution, but zero identity. Which of these stories surprises you the most? Was it the manipulative Canadian radio laws or the Silhouette album cover that fooled an entire nation? Hit that subscribe button right now, because next time we're digging deep into the bands that turned down millions of dollars just to keep their soul. I'll see you in the next one.